Okay. Thank you. Chairman, do you want us to keep our cameras off unless you need us?
As far as council, I don't have an opinion. There's been a general indication that that people appreciate it when trustees are on camera. So while there's no, to be clear, there's no determination that anyone needs to be on camera. If you're able to be on camera, that's great. If lawyers want to be on camera, they're welcome to be staff too. In general, if people can be on camera a little bit more, that's helpful. But again, that's not any kind of an official request.
No problem. Adam and I can both be on. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to be unduly distracting. If I need to step away, we know to turn ours off.
We have a lot of counsel here, so if I get this wrong, I'm sure I'll be corrected. But I think this falls under the category of please exercise your best judgment.
Uh-oh. Okay.
So with that, we will call the meeting to order. It is 9:02 a.m. Good morning, everyone. Bonnie, I believe you have a brief reading for us before we get started.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bernstein. At this time, I'll go ahead and do a roll call of the trustees. Mr. Pryor? Mr. Knox?
Good morning, I'm here.
Ms. Gray?
Morning.
Mr. Santos?
Here.
Mr. Oakham?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Kehoe?
Here.
Mr. Robbins?
Present.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Zapanta? Chair Bernstein?
Here.
Thank you. Staff participating in the meeting include the CEO, Santos Kryman, CIO, John Grable, AEO, JJ Popowich, Chief Counsel, Stephen Rice, Senior Staff Counsel, Johanna Fontenot, Legislative Affairs Officer, Barry Liu, Interim Systems Manager, Kathy Delino, CISO, Bob Schlofelt, Division Managers, Cassandra Smith, Ted Granger, and Carly Natoya. And we have consultants joining us, which are Ashley Dunning, Amy Oppenheimer, Vita Thomas, Bob Klausner, and Adam Levinson. Trustees, if you have a comment or question on any item, please use the Zoom chat feature to be placed in the queue. And at this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak, and we may proceed with the agenda.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. We are now on to item 2, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 6, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Bonnie, would you please take the roll call?
Thank you. Mr. Knox.
Aye.
Sorry, I was on mute. Mr. Knox, I have you as a yes. Ms. Gray?
Yes.
Mr. Santos?
Yes.
Mr. Oakham?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe?
Aye.
Mr. Robbins?
Aye.
Ms. Zapanta? Chair Bernstein?
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Item 3 is public comment. Have we received slips from the public, Bonnie?
We have not.
Then we are on to item 4, other communications. Item A has some for information items. We'll start with December 2020 All-Stars. Is that you, JJ? Take it away. You're a little muted.
Okay, hold on a second. Is this better?
No problem. So JJ, did you want me to announce the All-Star winners? Okay, great. Okay, so the All-Star winners, we have Deanna Hernandez, Veronica E. Martinez, Cynthia Martinez, and Maggie Luong.
And those are the All-Stars?
Yes.
Well, we are always grateful for our All-Stars, but especially during these times. I see a round of applause. Thank you very much. And now we are on to the CEO's report, which includes a memo dated January 25th.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Bernstein. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. And I wanted to just bring you up to speed with just a couple of items. It'll be a very brief CEO report. A lot of information is included in the report that you have. I just wanted to update you on the work that was done on Saturday. I know that the first couple of weeks, there were a handful of calls that were handled by our staff This past Friday, I sent out a CEO message to all of our members, and I'm happy to report that we went from about 30 to 35 calls. It jumped all the way up to about 150, nearly 150 calls over this past weekend on Saturday. So that's actually a very, very good number. We were able to help a lot of a lot of members that were interested in retiring, and so we're processing as quickly as we possibly can. We do anticipate that we're going to get a pretty significant spike in the number of retirement applications. So we're in the process of evaluating that, and we'll be moving resources to those areas that we need in order to make sure that we can process as many applications as we possibly can and retire our members in the given timelines that they are asking for. I'm going to be sending out another CEO message encouraging our members to let us know sooner rather than later if they anticipate on retiring, so that we get a better handle on the number of applications that we were going to need to process. We are ahead of schedule in terms of the number of applications that we're receiving, and so and we're starting to get a lot more call volume at our call center, more and more. Retiree healthcare has also been inundated with calls. Most of the operations folks have been continuing to work on the operations side. I know that there have been occasions where the call volumes were so large that they needed to peel off and help answer phone calls, in addition to our supervisors and our managers are also fielding calls as well. So the operation is humming, and the applications are flowing in, more than normal. I did want to mention to you also that our staff all participated in a kickoff meeting for the engagement survey that we launched on the 1st of this Monday, the 1st of February. So the engagement study is for the staff. I'm going to send the 74 question survey to each of the trustees so you can get a sense of the kind of questions that are going to be asked. We also have something a little different, where once we receive all of the information, we're going to set up some focus groups with our staff so that they can have some interaction with the consultant, so that they can drill down a little bit more detail into what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and try to identify those patterns that will assist us with our strategic planning effort. So this is the first part of our strategic planning effort, to try to figure out how the staff are feeling about their work environment, about the work culture, about the changes that have been done because of the new remote work environment. And so we're moving forward on that. And we're excited about that, quite frankly. The kickoff meeting was pretty successful. We had, I would say, nearly all of our employees went through that 1 hour training and kickoff session. And so we're planning on sharing all of the information with our staff. We just need to kind of distill it once we receive it and organize it. And then we will also be coming back to the board and the OOC committee, I believe, to talk about the findings in that particular study. So we think it's going to take us about a couple of months, maybe March, April. We'll be back before the OOC to talk about the results of that survey. So I don't have anything else to report. We're really busy with the operations side of the shop and moving applications through, like I mentioned earlier. And so with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Well, Santos, thank you very much for that report. Much
Great.
appreciated.
Thank you, Chair Bernstein.
Very good. We are on to item 5, consent items. That's the ratification of the service retirement and survivor benefit application approvals. There's a memo dated January 26th. If I could get a motion.
Keith, I'll move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Bonnie, would you please take the roll call?
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray. Thank you. Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Mr. Kehoe.
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Chair Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're on to 6 non-consent items. The first is a recommendation submitted by Stephen Rice, our Chief Counsel, regarding the powers and duties of Retirement Board trustees. It includes the ballot materials for the election of the 3rd member of the Board of Retirement and will be posted on LACERA. There is a memo dated January 26th.
Good morning. This is the annual review of the powers and duties document that is used as part of the election materials and also is posted on the website to inform the public and members about the responsibilities of board members. This year we had the powers and duties reviewed by Fiduciary Council, which is something we hadn't done in a few years, and Fiduciary Council provided some good substantive technical revisions that are redlined in the version that you have. We also added a new section on compensation and expenses, which is an issue that had not previously been addressed, but was actually suggested by a trustee from the Board of Investments that we add. Fiduciary Council and I concur that that is a good addition. The red lines really speak for themselves, so I won't go over them unless there are questions on it. However, there are 2 non-redlined issues that are flagged in the memo that I just want to mention, and the board should give consideration to these 2 issues. The first is confirming, as you are approving the document today, that the hours estimates in the introduction of the time that is spent by trustees on work related to board service remains accurate. Staff has no reason to recommend a change in that number, but it's important per the Clapman report and just making sure that the document retains its accuracy, that the board be very deliberate about making sure that estimate of the time spent is correct. The second issue relates to use of the word members versus trustees in connection with the members of the board. Last year, staff had recommended a change from members to trustees. The board stuck with the use of the word members, and that's fine. However, staff did want to redirect the board's attention to that issue and see if there was an interest in changing the terminology at this time. Last year, the board suggested that the JOG-C consider the issue in a global sense, not just for this document. That has not occurred thus far, so it may be that the same response would be given this year, which is that the JOG-C ought to consider it as a global issue, and we can agendize it for the JOG-C. But again, wanted to bring that up so that it's in your mind as you act on this. And with that, happy to stand for questions.
And I see a few coming in. The first is from Ms. Gray.
Thank you. I agree that the hours are the same. However, in the introduction, I would only suggest, based on item 11, involvement, to add an additional 15 hours if the trustee, is involved in other state or federal committees and organizations. And I say that because my participation as president of SACRS and all of the committees that I am on requires so much more that I am working weekends and nights to accomplish this. And it's all for our members and for LACERA. So I'd like to somehow work in in the introduction where it says as many as 120 to 140 hours, subject to item 11, involvement and additional, 10 to 15 hours. I don't know how that would best be worded. Perhaps Ms. Dunning has some suggestions.
Ms. Dunning?
I think it's a fair point, Trustee Gray, that a number of you may be involved in organizations that are taking additional time and that are as part of your responsibilities at LACERA. It's an extension of that. In terms of wordsmithing on the fly, perhaps what you would do is expand the range of hours up in the introduction from 120, and instead of 140, you'd say to 155. And then when you describe the various responsibilities, it's under 11 that you add those additional references, additional 15 hours. Which is so that at the end of the first sentence under 11, you might add a comma to say which may take up to an additional 15 hours of time per month.
Okay.
Does that respond to your comment sufficiently?
It does. And I was thinking about the meetings that we have. It's approximately 15 to 16 hours, 2 full days. But I think that would work. I don't know how Mr. Rice wants to do it, but it is important to include it because of the fact that I'm working all the time. I'm Zooming all the time.
The suggestion that there are various ways that this could be addressed, but the suggestion that Ashley's made is fine with me.
Okay.
Okay. I next have Mr. Harris and then Mr. Moore.
With all due respect to all the trustees here, I find the 120 to 140 hours not supportable. If you're on both boards, I would say that is probably very realistic. But I think if you're on one board, if you're doing between 80 and I'll even go as high as 120 hours a month, that is realistic. To say it's 120 to 140, it's almost as if we're trying to dissuade people from running for the board because it'll take way too much time. I fully appreciate the amount of time Ms. Gray and others put into this board. I know it can take a lot of time, but I've sat on this board. This is my second go around. I just find those hours unsupportable. Like I say, 80 to 120. I could definitely live with that, but I just think 120 to 140 is not realistic. Now, I appreciate Ms. Gray's point about the extra things she's doing on a statewide level. That I understand that, but that is not the average trustee. Thank you.
I have Mr. Moore next and then Mr. Santos.
Okay, sorry. I wanted to know from Steve, what was the reason for changing its supporting to regarding? I lost the place. I'm sorry. I gotta find it again.
Yes, you're referring to the provision on disability, which is paragraph 4.
Yes.
And this was a suggestion that Ashley actually made, but I'll answer, and then she can elaborate or express her views on it. But not all evidence that's submitted in connection with the disability application necessarily supports the application. Some evidence supports the application, others may not support granting the application. So the concept there was to use a more neutral term that suggests and indicates that all evidence will be reviewed regardless of whether it supports the application or does not support the application. Ashley?
That's exactly right, Steve, that as the adjudicator here, you're considering all of the evidence presented. And as Steve said, the evidence submitted by the applicant presumably support their application, but there may be additional records, medical evidence and other records that are presented to you relating to permanent incapacity or service connection that does not. And so it was intended to address that point in a neutral way.
Okay, is it prefaced by saying all information? Is that word in there? I gotta find it again.
Mr. Moore, it's paragraph 4 on page 2, disability retirement applications. The word all is not there, and that's a good addition, I think, actually, to put all before medical evidence. Right now, it just says the medical evidence.
Okay, I think when I read it, it sounded like we were kind of diminishing the fact that there's supporting documentation that supports information, and just saying just information regarding kind of diminishes supporting information. That's how I felt when I saw it.
Yeah, so that was definitely not the intent, and maybe the issues can be balanced by changing supporting to regarding, but changing the to all before medical evidence.
Okay, I'd go along with that. If you could make that change, I would be satisfied with it. I don't know about anybody else.
Mr. Rice, I think this is going to fall to you. If you could, since we're getting a variety of small changes, if you could collect them, and when the time comes to consider a motion, if you could sort of present what the recommended changes are, I think that would be most helpful. I have Mr. Santos in the queue next, and then Mr. Knox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Rice, with regards to the no paragraph compensation and expenses, this number one, this document is to inform the voters, and there is no election for the retirees this year. So why are we including the retiree compensation? In my view, it should stop where it says they receive the county salary and leave it there, because there's no retiree election unless I'm mistaken. I just don't want to add extra information there that is really irrelevant to the voters this election cycle. In other election cycles, perhaps for the retirees are running, I will agree. But at this point, in my view, it might confuse the voters.
Trustee Santos, the reasoning for phrasing it in this complete way is this document does not change from based on the seats that are open. So whether it's an active general member, a safety member, or a retired member, this document, generally the structure of it remains the same. And we do tend to tweak it, but not with respect to the chair, the individual seat that's open. So that was why it was complete in that way. If we tailor it to the issues in a particular election, then we'll be changing it every year based on the seat that's open, and that's not the approach that has historically been taken. So that was the reasoning.
But I think it's in my view, it's a good idea to tweak it because every year that there is an election, we have an opportunity to review this document. And so next year, I don't believe that there's going to be a retiree election next year, but I could be wrong. But next year, we're going to review this document again before it's submitted to the Board of Supervisors. So at that point, perhaps we could, every year, it should be tailored to the election that is going to take place. That's just my view. It's not a big deal, but I
I appreciate the comment. I would suggest that we not tailor it, and here's the reason why. This document is not just used for the election. Yes, it is an important document for the election, but this is posted on LACERA.com year-round every year as one of the documents that we steer members and stakeholders and the public to for information about what trustees do. And if we tailor it, then somebody who goes to the document on LACERA.com for that purpose is not getting complete information. So given the dual purpose, that actually to me is a bigger reason than what I said before about why to leave it general.
Mr. Santos, any more questions or comments before I move on?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Mr. Knox and then Ms. Gray.
Thank you. I thought Mr. Harris made a good point. 174 hours is equivalent to a full-time job. And I think in the introduction, the closer that range gets to a full-time job, is going to dissuade certain people from perhaps being interested. To Ms. Gray's point, though, maybe in item 11, involvement, we could move those hours down there, and it says something like, depending on the organization, this could require an additional 10 to 15 hours above and beyond those hours mentioned in the introduction, something like that. So you're still capturing the additional work that people like Ms. Gray put in, but it's not piling on in that introduction to scare people off.
I have Ms. Gray and then myself.
I would agree with Mr. Santos regarding the compensations and expenses, because it looks like, using Mr. Harris's argument that the hours in the beginning looks like we're trying to dissuade someone from running, the compensation and expenses, if they just gloss over it, are going to encourage someone to run because they think they're going to get paid above and beyond the money that they're making. And in fact, it's like, oh, look at all this money, $125 per day, $500 per month. It looks like you're going to make a killing on it. So I think that possibly we do need to tailor it every time we have an election. It seems like we do tailor it every time. And I understand that it says elected board members, you get your salary. And then those who are elected by retirees or appointed, either if you include it, then break it up into two separate paragraphs so that it is clearer to the voter who is not, sophisticated in how we do things, to just see, oh, this is what it's all about. They're not getting paid. It just needs to be clear. With respect to the hours, to comment on Mr. Knox's statement, if we move the hours down to involvement, there's no mention of it in the first paragraph in the introduction. And what happens is it gets lost in that, if someone were to look at it, they'll think, oh, you only do 120 to 140 hours when it's really more. And I think that that's important because I'm always trying to recruit people to get involved beyond LACERA for LACERA's benefit.
If I might, Mr. Chair, if we are going to tailor this document, then I think that we need to reconsider how it's posted on LACERA.com, because it will no longer be a complete and accurate statement, and it could mislead some people who are looking at the document by not disclosing, by addressing partial compensation issues, but not all the compensation issues. So my recommendation would remain, as I've said, which is to leave it as is. And I think maybe Ashley, you might benefit from the perspective of fiduciary counsel on this issue. But if we're going to view it as an election document, then yes, we can tailor it. But right now, it's an important dual-purpose document. It's an election document, but it's also a document of general use.
So I take that as a request that I comment, Steve, and I will. Under compensation expenses, I like the idea of dividing it into additional paragraphs at the risk of making the document itself a little bit longer. I think if you make a second paragraph starting with the second sentence, so you distinguish between those who are active current county or other participating district employees and the treasurer and tax collector on the one hand, and then those who are elected by retirees and appointed on the next, it makes it a lot clearer that you're talking about two different groups of people. And then I'd actually add a third paragraph break after the reference to the W-2 tax reporting, because the last sentence on reimbursement for reasonable and necessary expenses applies to all trustees. So then you'd have three short sentences that each dealt with a discrete topic. And then going back to the comment that I made earlier about the initial paragraph, a different way of dealing with that, which perhaps would accomplish both the goal of Trustee Gray and trustees Harris and Knox, I believe it was, who don't want to scare people away, would just be to say, instead of increasing the total number of hours to say 150 or whatever lower amount you may choose, just adding a comma at the end of that sentence, say subject to additional hours identified in paragraph 11 below, or subject to additional activities identified in potential additional activities identified in paragraph 11.
Thank you. I'm next in queue, then Mr. Kehoe. Thank you all for that input. First of all, I don't have a problem with the compensation and expenses section, and I would support Ms. Dunning's suggestion that we break it up for clarification. I would note, and it might be worth mentioning, although it does not relate to an election, but since we go out of the way to point out that there is federal and state income tax withholding and a W-2 issued, we might want to note that FICA is not withheld or paid. As far as the hours, I'm going to respectfully disagree with fiduciary counsel. It seems redundant. We say as many as 120 to 140 hours. We're not telling people that they will be serving that many hours. As chair this year, I'm serving that many hours. And I would note that if in a normal year where we were traveling, and in a normal year where someone might do 2 trips in a month, it's absolutely possible, if you include that time, that it could be as many as this. I don't think that I think that it's worded properly. We're not stating you will serve 120 to 140 hours a month, but that you could. I don't personally have a problem with that language as stated. And that's all for me. I have Mr. Kehoe next in the queue.
Thank you. You took the words out of my mouth. I just want to highlight that as board members, we're on the same level of a CEO as far as flexibility in what we do, how much we commit, how much time we commit, how much effort we put into reading the material. Everybody's on different levels. They're clearly different trustees, but in different amount of time, just based on their roles or responsibilities for the year. It could change. Now that I've been on the board for going on 11 years, I get phone calls daily that I talk to people with different questions and things. Les, I'm sure, is in the same situation. I know Vivian and Herman are definitely in the same situation. So it's all different. And I think we solved the problem exactly how Mr. Bernstein said, which is that we say as many as. So that provides the flexibility in us. I could turn my phone off. I could read just the disability material. I could not travel. And I'm probably in the 40 to 80 hour range, but I'm not going to be as effective or have as much responsibility as some other trustees. So bottom line, I think we're good how it's written as far as the time goes. And I think we need to slow down on tinkering with that. I think we've tinkered with it enough. Every year for the past 10 years, we've tinkered with it and changed the time. So I think we avoid the ongoing creep and leave it how it is. In regards to the other issue, I'm in agreement with Ms. Dunning's recommendation. I think clarifying the salary. I do think that we should specify it for everybody, because I get asked that a lot, and I don't want somebody who is an elected person or running to be elected thinking that they're going to get some compensation and vice versa. So I think it's good to clarify it. I don't think we should delete it though. And that's all my comments.
I don't have anyone else in the queue. Mr. Rice, could you sort of read the suggested revisions? And then if somebody, I'm not sure we're going to take all of them, but
Yes, so the suggested revisions include, and this will be kind of a menu from which the motion maker can select. We would add at the end of the first paragraph a reference that the hours are subject to additional time as stated in paragraph 11. In paragraph 4 on page 2, we would replace the before all, we would replace the with all before medical evidence. And I would also note there a personal editorial comment just to make it more accurate, all medical and other evidence, because there actually is non-medical evidence that's presented as well. So I think that would be a comment that I hadn't considered before that should be addressed. And then finally, well, not finally, but next in paragraph 11, there would be a reference to up to 15 hours, depending on the organization that a trustee may choose to get involved with. And then finally, on the last page, with respect to compensation, we would divide that one paragraph into 3 along the lines that Ms. Dunning suggested. And I would also add a sentence in the middle section that FICA is not deducted.
so I would move that with all 4, I counted 4 different amendments that you recommended, and I would incorporate all 4 of those.
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? And if not, I'll have Bonnie take the roll call. Bonnie, could you please do that?
Yes, Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Santos,
Aye.
Mr. Oakham,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Chair Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Very good. We are on to item B, a recommendation from Ted Granger, our interim CFO, regarding the CPI for 2020.
Good morning, Chair Bernstein and Board of Retirement Trustees. California Government Code requires the board to determine whether there has been a change in the cost of living index before April 1 of each year for cost of living adjustments affecting retired LACERA members and beneficiaries. For the year ended 2020, CPI percentage change was 1.45% for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area. As the COLA benefit rules require, the CPI percentage change is rounded to the nearest 0.5%. So the LACERA COLA award becomes 1.5%. Most retirees will receive a COLA increase of 2% this year, which is below the maximum adjustment for Plan A members, but is at the maximum allowed for all other retirement plans. For this year, because the COLA award was below the plan maximum amounts, the COLA accumulation accounts were reviewed and balances were reduced to increase the award to the maximum amount where possible for each plan. So I'll break it down very quickly. A few Plan A members may receive the maximum of 3%. That would be those with retirement dates up to March 31, 1981. Members with retirement dates between April 1st, 1981 and March 31, 2018 will receive 2%. Plan members with retirement dates between April 1, 2018 and March 31, 2021 will receive the standard COLA award of 1.5%. Most plan members of plans B, C, D, as well as PEPRA plans C and G will receive the maximum 2%. Those with retirement dates up to March 31, 2020 will receive that maximum 2% amount. Retirement dates between April 1, 2020 and March 31, 2021 will receive the standard COLA award of 1.5%. And finally, Plan E members who retired after June 4th, 2002 may receive a maximum of 2%. So for Plan E, the COLA amount is based on a ratio of months of service earned after June 4th, 2002, plus any purchased Plan E elective COLA divided by total months of service. So retirement dates up to March 31, 2020 will receive up to the 2%, depending on their ratio. And retirement dates between April 1, 2020 and March 31, 2021 will receive the standard 1.5%. Should this recommendation be approved by the board, the increases will become effective for the retirees April 1, 2021. If you have any questions, please let me know.
I will move it.
And I'll second it.
Thank you very much, Ted. Good report. Can we please take a roll call vote?
Mr. Knox,
Aye.
Ms. Gray, Mr. Santos,
Yes.
Ms. Gray, did I get a thumbs up?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Robbins,
Aye.
Chair Bernstein.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. We are now on to item 7, reports. We have 4 FYI reports, and I've had no request to pull any for discussion. But before we move on, are there any questions or comments on the reports? I don't think we do, so thank you very much for the people who pulled those reports together. They were all informative and good. We are on to item 8, items for staff review.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. We are on to good of the order. Bonnie, would you please
Yes.
call roll call so that people can participate in good of the order? And would you please make sure to include the alternates as well?
Absolutely. Mr. Knox?
Morning, everybody. Take care. Nothing else to share.
Thank you. Ms. Gray?
Can we come back to Ms. Gray?
Yes. I'll leave her for the end. Mr. Santos?
Just thank you. Good to see all my colleagues and supporting staff on this call today. I want to emphasize again how important it is for us to remain vigilant with regards to the pandemic. You know, we all tired. It's been months, almost a year that we've been locked in. But please don't let your guard down. Unfortunately, my brother let his guard down, and he, he's older than me, and decided to go to the park to exercise. And apparently, they have some machines in there, and he touched the machines, and I guess he touched his face, and he just passed away last Friday. It's just getting way too close to home, and it's just horrible, So please, colleagues, everybody, remain vigilant because it's all around us, and it just takes a second for one of us to get infected, and it's horrible. He suffered tremendously. Unable to breathe is not the right way to go. I have never seen somebody struggle like the people infected with COVID-19, because you pretty much drown in your own fluids in your lungs, and it's just very difficult. He decided to refuse to be intubated. I was glad that he was lucid to make that decision for himself, and as a consequence of he passed. So again, please just be really careful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Mr. Oakham?
Yeah, the only thing I have to say, and I think Sean and AP will remember Pete Pitches' sons, and his youngest son just shocked me yesterday. At 78, passed away from cancer. So it's not a good time, and I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Santos. That's terrible, and your words are taken very well. So we need to be careful. Probably not as careful as I should be, but hopefully this second shot will make it a lot better.
Thank you, Mr. Oka. Mr. Moore?
I also want to express my condolences, my sympathies for Mr. Santos, because I have 3 brothers myself, and we communicate pretty regularly and we stay safe. And there are 2 good friends of mine recently this month who tested positive and had symptoms. And it's not somebody else, and it's not the people on TV. This happens, and it's going to happen to a lot more people, that you're going to be exposed to this virus. So I just hope everybody remains vigilant and don't think that we're out of the woods because of the vaccine. It's going to be a long slog before we can start living a normal life. So take your time. Be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Kehoe?
Thank you. Mr. Santos, I'm definitely sorry for your loss. And I agree, stay safe and avoid going out as much as possible if you're in the position to be able to do that.
Mr. Robbins? I'll come back to you, Mr. Robbins. Mr. Harris?
No, once again, I really extend my condolences to Herman, and yeah, don't let your guard down. This thing is really horrible, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins.
Yeah, sorry I didn't unmute it. I just wanted to give you my condolences, Herman. I could tell by the way you were starting out that there was something serious going on and I didn't know about it. But I think the sad part about it, and I talk to people every day that still don't believe that COVID-19 is a big deal. So, and the way some of them don't mask up and the way they don't seem to want to social distance, it makes me crazy. And I have a lot of friends who are doctors and who work in hospitals, and I see the looks on their faces and I listen to what they have to say. And it is, it's about as real can be. And they get very frustrated and they get angry when they see people who don't want to mask up or who just don't want to take it seriously. But yeah, we're all trying to get our vaccines, and let's hope that this thing doesn't mutate to the point where the vaccines don't work, because they're already talking about that. So, and that's what's really scary. So everybody be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Ms. Gray?
I wanted to comment on an article, I guess it was in the Washington Post and other media outlets. Let me start out by saying I am the daughter of 2 immigrant parents. And in 1968, I never will forget, my father was walking around the house constantly reciting his oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the same oath that he was to take when he was going to be naturalized. It was a momentous occasion. That was 1968. In 1978, I took a very similar oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States as a deputy sheriff. And in 1988, I took that same oath as an attorney to uphold the Constitution of this United States and for everything that we stand for. And I say all that to say that when I signed on to the letter that was sent to BlackRock and other managers, I stand behind it. And why do I stand behind it? Because I was hurt. I am very committed to everyone. When I saw that man prancing around in the Camp Auschwitz t-shirt, I hurt for my brothers and sisters that are of Jewish descent. That hurt me. My father's friends, my father would be at least 100 now, but his friends used to have, and they never would explain it to me, but I didn't understand the little numbers that were on their arms. I didn't understand that. All I ever heard was wonderful stories of how it was where they lived. But it hurt me. It hurt me to see what happened on January 6th and the implications to each and every racial group. My brown and Black brothers and sisters, my LGBTQ brothers and sisters, I am outraged. So I stand behind what I said in that letter. I signed on to it in an individual capacity. And I say all this to say that I have to stand up for something because I refuse to fall for anything. I've lived by that all my life. I apologize if the letter was not clear, although it reminded me, and when I signed the letter, it was very much like the letter that I signed during the Me Too movement, that any reference to LACERA was in an identification capacity only. And that was the intent in this letter. And I tried to find the Me Too movement letter and to see the difference, but I think it was just the same. There was an asterisk and it stated that any references to funds was for identification purposes only. I don't apologize once again for what was said in that letter, because I feel I stood for each and every one of us, each and every one of our members of LACERA, each and one of my friends on this board. I cannot, I will not, and I will always defend everyone, because it is important that we respect our rights as individuals, as human beings. So, you know, I say that to say, I will always stand up for you. I will always voice an opinion that hopefully reflects my feelings toward everyone here. And if there was some sort of miscommunication, if you are offended by what I signed on to, I'm sorry, but I stand by it as an exercise of my First Amendment right. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Gray. Stephen Rice.
My thoughts and condolences are with Mr. Santos and his family. Nothing else to add. Good morning.
Thank you, JJ Popowich.
Good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me this time. I apologize for earlier and just trying to process everything that I've heard. I'm sorry, Mr. Santos, for your loss. Devastating and a tragic reminder of why we all need to be careful and take care of ourselves. And I keep one of these around my neck most of the time at work. I just hope that every one of us and all of our members and our family members do what they can to protect themselves. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Santos Kryman.
Yes, I just want to send my prayers and condolences to Mr. Santos and his brother Euclides. It's a tragic loss, and I know firsthand what it's like to lose a brother. Not only do you lose a brother, but you also lose a best friend, quite frankly, and all the memories, hopefully, that you've generated over the past lifetime can get you through this. So my prayers and condolences go to you. And so it is a stark reminder that we do have to remain vigilant. And I appreciate all of the comments from the trustees and quite frankly, all of the support that we've received trying to manage the COVID issue with our staff and making sure that we can keep them safe and our members as well. So thank you for that, and my condolences again, Mr. Santos.
Thank you, Chair Bernstein.
Thank you, Bonnie. Herman, what an unspeakable loss. My heart goes out to you. With your approval and without objection, we'll adjourn the meeting in the memory of Euclides Santos. I hope that's okay with you. We'd like to do that. And
Yes, sir. And thank you very much for all your kind words. Appreciate it.
On a different note, I just wanted to acknowledge that today, February 3rd, is literally the 10th anniversary of my first Board of Retirement meeting. My first meeting was February 3rd, 2011. So I am celebrating a decade of service, and I am honored to serve with all of you, to work with this great staff, and most importantly, to uphold our mission to our members. It remains engaging and one of the huge honors of my life. So I just wanted to acknowledge that anniversary. And with that, we need to break for about 2 minutes to go into executive session. So Bonnie, if you could sort of tell us what we need to do, we will go into executive session.
Yes, thank you, Chair Bernstein. At this time, any staff members or consultants not participating in the next item in executive session, if you can go ahead and dismiss yourself now. We need about 2 to 3 minutes to transition, so go ahead and take a quick stretch or get some coffee, and we will resume shortly.